Hi, Lawrence County, Newcastle teens. This is Miss Sharon here from Newcastle Public Library. It's nice to see you all virtually here again. Anyway, this is Teen Book Chat. Welcome, welcome. And we're going to chat a bit about books that you like and enjoy. If you have any questions, any comments, any books that you'd want to share or want me to spotlight, so greater Lawrence County area can see what everybody's reading, contact me here at the library, 724-658-6659, extension 111, or ssavage, SSAVAGE at ncdlc.org. Send me an email and I'm happy to answer that. If you've not signed up for Teen Summer Reading, get on our website, ncdlc.org, check out the summer reading and click on teens and set up an account and join. You know, you might as well get props for reading this summer. I know that y'all have assigned reading to do. What I'm currently reading is Comics Will Break Your Heart by Faith Erin Hicks, who is a graphic novelist. She did some of this cool art on here. And so this is, as you see, I'm almost done. So it'll be back here ready to check out. And this is a cute, cute book. I'm really enjoying it. And it's about like kind of a family feud. There's a bit of romance. There's very interesting parents that care so much about their kids. There's the head of Warwick Studios, his son is involved here, and a big Tomorrow Men comics, kind of like a la Marvel. So, and it's set in Nova Scotia, Canada, which is a real unique sense of place. So this is Comics Will Break Your Heart by Faith Erin Hicks, and it's a neat novel and I'm enjoying it. So I'm actually reading more that now I'm getting out of a COVID-19 brain fog, so I think I'm doing a little better. Anyway, I was thinking about the first chapter I wanted to share with you today, and I like road trip books. So this is by Carolyn Cooney, who I adore as an author. I think she really has a great voice for teens. And this one's called Hit the Road, because I know many of us are like, let's hit the road, go on a road trip. And road trip books have always been my favorite thing to read because it takes me away. It takes me out of the place I'm in. So let's check out the first chapter of Hit the Road, and then you can decide if you want to borrow it or not, or download it or not. Your choice. That's the cool thing about books. We don't all have to like the same thing, but we can get together and talk about, hey, I've really read a great book. You might like it. Okay, chapter 1 of Hit the Road. Britt's family was the only one-car family in Connecticut. Britt had had her driver's license 11 days. And since there were now 3 drivers at her house, simple math meant 3 cars, or at least 2. But instead of leaving their perfectly good car at home for Britt to drive around and enjoy, Mom and Dad were wasting it on an airport parking lot. Britt would be staying with Nanny while her parents were gone, but she couldn't even drive her grandmother's old Cadillac because Mom had decided that Nanny was too old to drive and sold the Caddy to make absolutely sure Nanny couldn't go anywhere. Brittany Ann Bowman was going to be carless, very close to lifeless, for 2 weeks. She had texted every single friend that she had ever had, and plenty of people who weren't exactly friends, but had been in class with her forever, that if they were going anywhere at all, they had to take her because she would be desperate. When Britt and her parents got to Nanny's house that morning, Nanny was standing outside in the rain, holding her handbag and looking around the front yard as if she were shopping at the mall. "Didn't I tell you," Mom said, "she's losing her marbles." "She is not losing her marbles," said Britt, who adored her grandmother and hated when Mom said Nanny was failing. Nanny was wearing a mauve silk suit and looked rather like a tulip. To protect her stiffly curled white hair, she was holding a tan umbrella with a PBS logo. Bert's mother shouted to penetrate Nanny's deafness. "We're early, Mother. I'm worried about traffic. Here's Brit." "I told you I cannot keep Brit this week," said her grandmother. "Nanny," said Brit, hurt. "I reminded you twice," yelled Brit's mother. "We're spending 2 weeks in Alaska, and Brit's staying with you." "And twice," said Nanny, trembling, "I explained that I cannot take care of Brit. I have plans." "You're 86, murmured Brit's mother. "You don't have plans." And then, loud enough for Nanny to hear, she shouted, "You won't be taking care of Brit. Brit will be taking care of you." Nanny glared at her grown-up daughter. "Just go then," she said, shooing Brit's parents back into their car. "Hurry up and leave." Mom and Dad had a plane to catch, so they went. The moment they were out of sight, Nanny, who hardly ever cared what time it was, checked her watch. Into the driveway whipped a metallic bronze GMC Safari van, spraying puddle water on Brit. Right behind it sped a black Saturn. Out of the Safari climbed an overweight guy in an ugly brown uniform. Nanny stepped forward like a contestant in a game show. "I'm Mrs. Scott." "And here's your car, ma'am," he said, handing her the keys. Nanny had brought a car to replace her caddy. No wonder she was tense. Mom would return this van to the dealership in 2 seconds. And no wonder Nanny forgot about the Alaska trip. Who cared where anybody else was going when Nanny was about to get her freedom back? Brit had been there when Mom said to Nanny, "Your eyes are so bad you can't tell the difference between a trash barrel and a 2-year-old at the side of the road. Your knees are so stiff it takes you 5 minutes to brake. You have to stop driving." Mom went right into Nanny's purse, fished out her driver's license and cut it in half and tossed it in the garbage. In vain, Nanny pleaded, "Without a car, all I can do is gather dust and stare out the window," because Nanny's house was 3 miles from a quart of milk, a committee meeting, or a bridge game. "I've hired an aide," said Brit's mother briskly. "She'll take you where you want to go. You won't even notice not having a car." How could you not notice that you didn't have a car? Brit had been noticing that one all her life. She noticed every single kid who got their own car and every single one who didn't. In spite of the rain, the dealer flung open every door to display the Safari's interior. Brit thought of a Safari as a jumped-up utility van, but this model was deluxe. 4 leather bucket seats and a bench in back, cup holders everywhere, reading lights, and possibly even a good sound system. Very important. Brit was very encouraged by how the first day of vacation was shaping up. Cars were everything. Brit's parents commuted into New York City by train. Their dented and scratched Honda Accord had 110,000 miles on it, collected 5 miles at a time, going back and forth from the train station. They had no plans for a new car. Only Brit wanted a decent car. And now Nanny, of all people, had one. Well, as far as a mid-sized van could be decent. Personally, Brit had had her eye on a Mini Cooper in yellow. This was because of her lifelong crush on a boy actually named Cooper. Cooper no longer spoke to her or associated with her, but Brit liked to pretend that a Mini Cooper would give her that relaxed, casual aura of car ownership, and then she could easily invite him for a drive, and it wouldn't seem pushy or date-ish because the car was named for him. "Usually, you'd have to drive me back to the lot, Mrs. Scott," said the guy, "but we're delivering the black Saturn this morning, too, so I'll go on in that car. All you have to do is sign off." Nanny wrote her name on the clipboard and which struck Brit as an odd way to buy a car. "How about you hop into the driver's seat, Mrs. Scott, while I show you a few things," said the guy. Nanny had not hopped into or out of anything in years. Nanny's big skill was lowering. And she couldn't lower herself onto anything really low because then she couldn't get up again. These days, Nanny was always getting stuck on a sofa that was too soft or too deep. The driver's side had a narrow running board, the step above that in handles. And even so, Brit didn't think her tiny little grandmother could get in without a boost. Why had Nanny bought this big box of a car? What did she want with extra seating and lots of luggage room? And how could she expect to get away with it once Mom was back? I don't require instruction, thank you, said Nanny. I've been driving for 3/4 of a century, 75 years. The dealer was aghast. Could anybody that ancient still drive? He narrowed his eyes at Britt. You're not letting this kid drive, are you? He said sternly to Nanny. You got to be 25 years old to drive a rental car. You don't want to break that law, Mrs. Scott. I can't leave the car with you. I think you're going to let a kid drive. A rental car? Britt thought. Well, it has been delightful meeting you, said Nanny, but I must go. Good morning. The guy laughed, saluted her, and leaped into the Saturn, which shot out of the driveway Nanny style. One thing Nanny had always done well was back up. She took a sight line in that rear view mirror and shot out into the road. Nanny and Grandpa had bought the house more than 50 years ago, and there was probably 50 times more traffic now. Mom took away Nanny's driver's license precisely because Nanny backed into traffic without looking. Always look behind you. Follow your sight lines. Nanny stroked the Safari as if patting somebody's new great-grandchild. She circled the vehicle, shutting each door the guy had left open. The doors made heavy, satisfying slams. It wasn't just some tuna fish can of a car, but nice and solid. Still, no matter how solid the vehicle, Brittany couldn't let Nanny drive. Nanny, she said, you can't drive without a license. True. Nanny beamed. She opened her handbag. As she liked purses a foot deep, 6 inches wide, and 1.5 feet long. She carried paperbacks and lists and receipts and tissues and a hairbrush and lipsticks and basically anything small that looked as if it needed a place to live. Her wallet rose to the surface. Nanny did not have to open the wallet since it was always open. Out spurted a license. Last week, Nanny said smugly, I had a new aide who didn't know that Gail had destroyed my license. I had the aide drive me to the Motor Vehicle Bureau, where I explained that I had mislaid it. They kindly made me another. Nanny threw her purse and umbrella into the Safari and reached for the lowest support handle. It was beyond her fingertips. Clinging to the door and scrabbling into the seat, she got her right foot onto the lower step. Britt moved in close so she could make a save. Gripping the seatbelt as Tarzan gripped vines, Nanny tried to haul herself in. The seatbelt just lengthened. Nanny straightened her curved spine, got a finger hold on the handle, and with great effort, placed her toes on the running board. Gasping for breath, she reached farther in, gripped a more distant handle, made it to the second step, and fell over onto the seat. A minute later, she recovered enough to pull herself into an upright position. She was too short to see over the dashboard. Sounds like my grandma Pellegrino. She was like 4'10", something like that. Where are you headed? Asked Britt, knowing she must not let Nanny go anywhere, especially when Nanny had no view of the road. Nanny lifted her chin. Reunion. And Britt knew that her grandmother did not see the driveway, nor hear the rain. She saw her beloved college campus in Maine, as it had been in the fall of her freshman year when 4 girls shared a suite in a brand new dormitory called Buttermere. Nanny Rawlings, Florence Mirsky, Aurelia Allen, Daisy Ferrer. Every single June since their college graduation, Nanny and the girls had gone to reunion, getting married, everybody, having babies, everybody, teaching Latin, Nanny, founding a museum, Aurelia, running an inn, Daisy, chairing boards, Florence, burying husbands, everybody. Nothing stood in their way. Then, last June, all 4 of the girls were told by their adult children, you can't go this year, you're too old and sick. What their children didn't say, but Nanny certainly said to Britt was, and we're not interrupting our interesting lives just to take you. Last year they won, said Nanny. This year they lose. This is our 65th reunion and we are not going to miss it. I'm the driver. Britt saw the plan Nanny had hatched. You won't let me drive? Fine, I'll get another license. You sold my car? Fine, I'll rent one. Nanny started the engine. It had a deep, powerful purr, the sound of the van actually ready to go on a safari. Nanny, however, was too short to reach the pedals. Britzy, kindly adjust the seat for me, said her grandmother. Okay, said Brit, shove over. But Nanny was way beyond the age at which she could shove over. Brit had to get in on the far side, crouch between the front seats, lift Nanny into the passenger seat, get behind the wheel, move the seat as low as it would go. Nanny would have a great view of the speedometer, and finally stick Nanny back behind the wheel. Her grandmother was as tiny as a 5-year-old. If she ever got going, it would be one of those cases where the car seemed to be driving itself, out for a spin on a rainy day, cleverly managing its own turn signals. Nanny's foot was still half an inch from the accelerator. Nanny never swore or used vulgar words, and even now was probably not tempted. She just said, "Please go into the house, Britzy, and bring me 2 pillows." Brit went into the house and got 2 pillows. On the way, she pulled her cell phone out of her jeans pocket and checked her messages. According to every text message she had gotten so far this summer vacation, this was day 1 and still pretty early in the morning, but even so, Brit had heard from 4 girlfriends. Everybody else was already bored and looking for something to do. I have something to do, thought Brit, and I don't know how to do it, stopping Nanny. She quick called Haley and explained, and Haley, who always had the answer, said, just hire a driver. Enough money rents anything. Look how they delivered Nanny's van right to her front door. The driver can pick up all those old ladies and take them to the reunion, and meanwhile, you stay with me. It'll be perfect. I'll tell my mother you're coming. Vacation is totally looking up. Brit had always known that her best friend was brilliant. She got back into the van and explained Plan B to Nanny. But her grandmother took the pillows out of Brit's hands and wedged them behind her back. Don't you interfere, young lady. I have no choice, and I have to bring you to my reunion. But don't you forget, the way your mother forgets, that I am the grown-up and you are the child. Nanny struggled with her seatbelt. In strange cars, Nanny could never find the slot for the tip to slide into. Brit clicked the belt for her. Nanny put the van in reverse. The Safari was automatic, so even though she wasn't touching the gas, it began moving slowly on its own. Since it was facing the house, it was now going backward toward the road. There's a tree in the way, Brit mentioned, kind of a big one. Nanny practically stood up on the floor to brake. The Safari lurched to a halt. Nanny shoved it into drive, and now the van crept forward, relentlessly approaching the front steps. With all her strength, the strength a canary might have, Nanny yanked at the wheel, and because of excellent power steering, an actual collision with the house was avoided. The Safari slaughtered the rose bushes, accomplished a full circle, and headed for the road again. Brit stalled for time. Aren't you taking a suitcase, Nanny? Thank goodness you remembered. I have so much to bring. I made peanut brittle for Aurelia. She loves that. And macaroons for Daisy. She loves those. And my best chocolate pound cake for Flo. Nanny braked, but the pressure of one toe was not enough to stop the Safari, and she didn't have the strength the second time to stand up on the pedal. Tugging at the wheel, Nanny thrust her little mauve shoe at anything on the floor. There was not time for Brit to slide her grandmother out of the driver's seat and take over before they ended up in the middle of traffic and got smashed to death. Not an optimal first day of vacation. On the other hand, if Brit just jammed her dirty white sneaker on the brake, she'd crush Nanny's toes. Brit grabbed the steering wheel and hauled it toward herself. At the same moment, Nanny located the accelerator. The sudden spurt of gas spun the van through half the hedge, and the rest of the flowers dug tire ditches in the soft green grass. They both screamed. Nanny pressed harder on the floor. They crushed the herb garden, and the pillars of the front porch loomed in front of them. Brit kicked Nanny's foot off the accelerator, jabbed her foot over, and braked. They stopped with enough force to get whiplash. Brit put the car into park. The yard looked as if the entire football team's worth of vandals had been at work all night. Nanny slumped against the pillows. and tears slid down the pale cheeks, which had never, not once, stayed out too long in the sun. Britt's grandmother was so old. She had only one daydream left, reunion, and it was wrecked. Britt couldn't stand it. Nanny, we can still go. I'll find a driver through the yellow pages and pay him anything to come right now. You'll have your 65th reunion. Everything will be all right. It won't be all right. We can't hire a driver. Nobody would go along with my plans. Oh, Britzy, Aurelia is counting on me, and I'm going to let her down. What are your plans, Nanny? Said Britt as she texted Haley. Plan B is out, she wrote. Think up plan C. Aurelia's dreadful, wicked son believes that since he's going to inherit her money anyway, he ought to be able to spend it right now. And Aurelia should just get out of his way and die. But she isn't dying, so he managed the next best thing. He visited her on a Sunday last November, and she was so pleased because he rarely has time for her. He even took her to church, but after church, he didn't take her home. He threw her into an Alzheimer's facility. Britt knew all about this. Mom and Dad think it was for the best, Nanny. Aurelia hasn't been well in years, and she's on about 100 medications, and she couldn't take care of her house or get up and down the stairs. Her son loves her, Nanny. That's why he moved her closer to him. He does not love her. He loves her money. She's bought him off every year for 59 years, and now he wants all the money. He's not a good child. He convinced the doctors, or paid them off more likely, that Aurelia has to be kept in a supervised ward, and then he put himself in charge of her. Aurelia does not have access to her own money. Well, she doesn't have Alzheimer's. Aurelia and I write frequently. Aurelia has all her marbles. There was no finer compliment Nanny could give than to say that a person still has all their marbles. The great fear of anybody 86 years old was indeed Alzheimer's disease. To misplace keys, forget a friend's name, or not be able to figure out an easy crossword clue, it meant your mind was being eaten away. You were losing your marbles. Britt had never owned a marble, never seen anybody play marbles, didn't know what marbles had to do with brain cells, but Nanny fretted constantly about her marbles. Losing them, she would whisper grimly when she could not find her 4th library book. Nanny, I can never find my library books either, Britt would say. It has nothing to do with marbles and everything to do with being sloppy. You're 86. You're never going to be a good housekeeper, so give it up. Library books are always going to be missing, and they'll always surface eventually. Your marbles are fine. Now Nanny turned her blue eyes to Britt. Every year, those eyes faded a little. She looked terribly old. I thought of everything, cried Nanny. I canceled my aids. I stopped the mail. The papers are being held. Today, I plan to drive to Long Island to get Flo. Flo and I drive to Massachusetts and locate the nursing home. We remove Aurelia from her prison. To get her out of there, we may have to claim that we're her sisters. Nobody can argue with a sister, especially if you are wearing sensible shoes and have their hair done. We pretend we're merely going to lunch. Aurelia uses a walker and she's slow, but that's not a great impediment. We drive away. They suspect nothing. Britt could see that a driver hired from Yellow Pages might not cooperate in the snatching of an 86-year-old woman with a walker. Then, finished Nanny triumphantly, we confer with Aurelia's attorney and witness the new will she is writing, in which she leaves everything to the college instead of her dreadful son. We swing north, pick up Daisy, and proceed to reunion. I thought on a rainy day like this, you might teach me how to knit, said Britt, but no, you want to pull off a kidnapping. Nanny would be the oldest living kidnapper in America. The Safari was her getaway car. Nanny didn't hear Britt because she had forgotten to put her ears in. Nanny never called them hearing aids because she hated the whole concept of needing aid. Daisy will never forgive us for not including her in the kidnapping, she said, but We're 86. So how many more years will we be alive to listen to Daisy complain? It's not our fault Daisy lives too far north to be part of the action. Britt's phone rang, presumably with Haley's Plan C. But Nanny, not hearing the ring, took Britt's hand. Britzy, I am a law-abiding person, but that's so yesterday. Nanny adored slang and generally got it all wrong, but this time it was perfect. Britt gave her a thumbs up. Buttermeres, said Nanny, for she was even prouder of her dorm than her college or her degree. Never surrender. Aurelia had lost all freedom and dignity, and she is counting on me to restore them to her. I will not surrender to circumstance. It's time to break the rules. Britt wasn't sure just how Nanny planned to break the rules, since she couldn't even get the safari out of the driveway. You're not tall enough to drive this car, Nanny. You are. It isn't legal for me to drive, Nanny. You heard the guy. If we have an accident, we're both in trouble. Police trouble, insurance company trouble, rental car company trouble. Britt didn't bother to mention mom trouble, which was the biggie in their family. Then don't have an accident. Don't worry, said the grandmother, who could not see the road or read the signs. I'll navigate. You steer. Load the car, Britt, and then we hit the parkway. We have a kidnap scheduled. And that is the end of the first chapter. Check it out to read chapter 2 of Caroline Cooney's Hit the Road. So my friends, have a great Monday. We'll talk soon. Remember, email or call if you want a book discussed or if you need a book to put it on hold. We're happy to do that for you at the library. So you all have a great week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Hello, Tayden. How are you?
Good.
Good.